Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
A 4chan prophecy from a decade ago has become my fate, pic-related. Has this been the fate of anyone else on here? Strongly considering selling my soul to escape this. It's no way to live.
There will be no collapse the way some of these people think of it. It's not going to be like the movie Dawn of the Dead or whatever, where one day suddenly shit hits the fan and prices skyrocket and everyone begins to riot and the Gestapo comes marching down the street to kill everyone. There will be no happening. It's far more insidious than that. Read the poem The Hollow Men by T.S. Eliot, and you'll understand. You'll just notice that every day simple things will become a little more expensive. Everyone's homes and apartments will start to get smaller. Your work hours will get longer, but your pay will decrease. You'll see family and friends less and find that in time you care less about them. Every day you'll find yourself lowering your standards for everything. Work, food, relationships, etc. Job security will no longer exist as a concept. You'll notice houses and apartments shrinking. People will start hanging on to clothing longer and longer. Less people will get married, even less will have children. People will engross themselves in technological distractions and fantasy while never truly experiencing the real world. Whatever dream people used to have about what their lives were going to be will become for them a distant memory. The only thing left for them will be the reality of their debt and their poverty. And every minute of every day, they will be told, "You are stupid, ugly, and weak, but together we are free, prosperous, and safe." That is the collapse. The reduction of man into a feudal serf, incapable of feeling love or hate, incapable of seeing the pitiful nature of his situation for what it is or recognizing his own self-worth.
That wasn't a magical prophecy. People have been observing and predicting all of those trends since at least the 80s. It's the basis of all that cyberpunk fiction if you look past the action hero stuff. Things got somewhat worse, yeah, but I'm pretty sure the reason you're identifying with that post so heavily is that you probably read it around 18 years old, and most of the things described are shit that happens as you become an adult. It's pretty garbage if you're not from a very connected family. No, I don't mean powerful. I mean literally a close family. Because a lot of our generation has no real-life raft. Some of us just have successful social momentum, but even those people are becoming fewer and fewer.
Well, how do we fix this then?
You don't really. On one hand, maybe there is some kind of catalyzing event, unlikely, that leads to a full-scale collapse, civil war. Decades of suffering until stable nation-states manage to offer some semblance of peace and prosperity. Then a slow descent into degeneracy again. Or more likely, the descent just continues from where we are now. The technological tools at the elite's disposal today all but guarantee their stranglehold on people's minds no matter what happens, short of some major cataclysm. There are no historical parallels for what is happening today, because at no point in history did the elite have access to such sophisticated tools of control and oppression. Personally, all I'm doing is trying to live in my own bubble with the few like-minded friends I have, and try to maintain what sanity I have for as long as I can.
This is shockingly true and will only lead to the inevitable outcome of the death of the American dream, whatever is left of it that our overlords haven't already demolished with a wrecking ball. The sad part is, we all let it happen, and it's coming faster and faster as we speak. There will be no amount of anything that will stop what's coming. That poem was spot on.
Technology is about to make everybody obsolete. We used to let them take the lion's share because they were supposedly smart and hard-working and blah, blah, blah. Automation has already made 75 to 80% of workers obsolete. AI will do the same. My cousin is a comptroller, or was. Computers do his job now. He's been unemployed for over a decade. It won't be long before the plant chairman is a computer. That's what people better be afraid of. We let them rule us when it seemed we had no choice. Now they're just a big bunch of useless eaters as we are. and they know it. How do they plan to keep their wealth and status now that they're just as worthless as we are? That's the question. You can bet they've been working on a plan for it, and it will probably be a horror for everyone who isn't one of them.
The plan is pretty obviously at this point is to form a breakaway civilization of the elite and leave the rest of us behind to rot until the Earth heals into a fresh paradise for them again. Just hole up in little fiefdoms of privately owned compounds and conclaves in places like Hawaii. Or better yet, the spots less well known and much more exclusive. Make little paradise eco-bunkers, or go underground or to space or whatever, and then let the rest slowly fall apart. Withdraw into the shadows and let the rest of it all collapse into a medieval feudal state with an uneducated feral slave populace of NPCs bred like rats, since they no longer need the middle-class/skilled workers and plan to replace all those jobs with computers and automation. The new money multi-billionaires are fighting over scraps, the trillionaire shadow fund equity banking organizations we have never heard of, that they all work for literally own everything now. There is nothing left for anyone that doesn't already have a big piece.
That's what we've been saying for years now. Immense progress in robotics, computing, the internet, and yet you're still forced to get up at 6 a.m. to work 8 hours for 50 years. While progress should be freeing us from work, it's being used by today's elites just to enrich itself. As the other anons said, the plan is also about enslavement. It's part of their plan, so it will always force us to be its absolute servant. Look at the debate on remote working and all the companies doing everything in their power to force us into offices when we could be working from home. It pisses them off that we work in an environment we like and the way we like it. They don't just want us to do the work. They want to control us at all costs.
Our predecessors were promised that, and we are scared by the same old tactics of saying you can't keep up with tech. But most tech won't change the world. People actually adapt more quickly. The only thing real is them trying to mentally and physically enslave us, as you said.
I was lucky, I guess. As an old man, I got to see it all happen. The decline started in the 70s with inflation and factory closings, leveled out in the 80s for about 10 years, then continued downhill in the 90s, leveled out again in the early 2000s for a short time, but since 2008, it's been a rocket sled ride downhill. My dad got out of high school and worked for Bell Telephone, Chrysler, in a chemical plant, Studebaker Motors, and finally he settled on being a firefighter. When I got out of high school in 1989, I would have killed for any one of those jobs. They were hard to find even then. My dad just quit them one after the other like they were shitty jobs. No millennial or zoomer will ever get one of those jobs. Times have changed, no doubt.
That's because the jobs aren't there. The market is full of ghost jobs. Lisa Simon is the chief economist of Revelio Labs, which is a jobs analytics firm. Lisa Simon. Back in 2018, we sort of saw that 1 in 5 job postings wouldn't result in a hire, and now it's almost half. So 1 in 2 job postings don't result in a hire. Seeing open positions looks good to investors, which drives profits. Meanwhile, workers are screwed.
I remember hearing about that at the time. Nobody quite knew what to make of it. Some suggested it was headhunting firms paying companies to list jobs with them. Of course, the jobs never existed, but the unemployed suckers who hired the headhunting firms never knew that. They were going to all these job interviews, and it seemed like the headhunter was doing a good job. They were just unlucky and never got one. Everything is a fucking scam now.
It's so bad that not even headhunters know what's real anymore. But at least they are making a living. People get interviewed up to 10 times, then are told, "We'll keep your resume on file." Companies ask programmers to do take-home work as an audition, then steal the code and never pay. And there's no way to stop them as submissions are property of the company. Serious holes in worker rights laws keep all of this happening.
Boomers are always saying everyone is hiring when on their soapboxes whining about millennials, yet for every one of those boomers, there's 50 of us who have put in like 500 applications in a week or something and don't get a call back, but from maybe 20 of those, and even those 20 don't result in a hire either. There's so many videos of people going through this who are so ready to give up. So many hiring signs, but nobody actually hires. I've been wondering why. Now I know. Thanks, friend.
This sums it up. The only thing I'd split hairs on is the existence of investors, which is really just the Fed printing money and injecting infinite funds into the balance sheet, sniffing their own farts, if you will. The number, inflation, must go up. Fake job openings are perceived as deflationary, which incentivizes lowering rates, mass immigration, and more debt accumulation.
Fear-mongering. They, whoever they are afraid of people like me working and getting money because the only thing that matters is the money-to-power conversion ratio that you can produce, and not simply the money you get that you then spend on nothing valuable or time-resistant.
I've been thinking about something for years now. Around 2008, I had this friend who started talking about shooting up our school. I thought he was joking, but he seemed weird, like he wasn't in control of himself, like some other force was influencing him. I believe that these school shooters aren't acting on their own. They're being manipulated by some kind of elite force, something powerful that wants these shootings to happen. They create chaos and fear, and for some reason, they need these events to go down. And most of the time, they aren't supposed to be stopped. The day it happened, I knew something was going down. He actually brought a gun to school, just like he said he would. I remember the teachers told us to hide in some really dumb way. We were basically going to get shot even if we were hiding or not, so I grabbed the gun, fought him off, and shot him instead. Then this eerie, reversed piano sound started playing. I was pulled into this weird white void. There were men there, dressed in suits like some kind of secret government agents or elites. Everything around me was spinning. They told me I had broken the rules, that these shootings were meant to happen, and that by stopping it, I had committed a sin against death. Then I woke up in my bed. It felt like a dream, but when I got to school, no one remembered my friend. He didn't exist. It was like he'd been erased from reality, like the whole thing had never happened. No one talked about him. I think what happened is that these elites, whoever they are, shifted me into a different timeline. One where my friend never existed because stopping the shooting wasn't part of their plan. Most mass shootings aren't meant to be prevented, and when I did, they had to fix things. Has anyone else ever thought that these events are being orchestrated or controlled? It feels like there's something much bigger going on behind the scenes. Also, why? Why do the elites do this?
I never had a desire to go shoot up a place. But for some reason during my despair days of alcoholism, I started trying to get the attention of feds and mocking secret societies and shit. Went crazy shortly after. I can confirm that there is definitely something going on with the voices or people trying to flee the country because the government is after them. It's a real thing. It's not that your mind breaks and you are in la-la land. It's like seeing shapes or storylines that are invisible until something is activated on you. It is extremely hostile. Bible story levels of terror.
I wonder why, honestly.
The visions were like smart kid in a headset clenching his teeth, demons chasing people, men in black, aliens, people dying to bad music, AI demon faces, so many demon faces, also lots of threats. It feels like you are thrown into a story, but you try to keep it at an arm's length away because you know how crazy it is and how the voices do mislead. Honestly, pour one out for the homies who went nuts. Those are not the people who should be ashamed if they got what I was having.
Muck capitalism. Must socialism. Come on, we're smarter than this, right? I'm not American, so this left versus right stuff is nonsensical to me. All I really see is that humanity is being trapped in systems with very little actual human input, and as people become swine cattle, they lose any desire for freedom or interest in actually examining what our rulers do. And unsurprisingly, everything goes to shit. Before the modern period, military service was rewarded with land and plunder. Now you lose a leg and get a medal. Politicians openly take bribes from shady groups and corporations, and it's called lobbying instead of corruption, and people are too busy enjoying their 5 minutes of hate against the other side to give a shit. Who do you even blame when some nameless investment group buys up 3/4 of the houses in a new property development? Ironically, feudal kingdoms typically had a better system of checks and balances in place because the church, king, and aristocracy all hated each other, so the peasantry and burghers could petition the enemies of whoever fucked you over. Now, have fun signing 1,000 different forms and nothing being done because you can't pay for 200 politicians to have mega yacht trips to Dubai.
They have a monopoly on violence. Peasant revolts don't happen because by the time you're at an organizational level, you've been long red flagged, and the leadership is either executed or imprisoned. Worse yet, the bread and circus that the plebs pay for now keep the cattle complacent enough to never get angry, despite daily abuse and humiliation. Humanity ain't looking too good going forward.
Their fatal flaw is that they believe there are only two options: capitalism or Stalinism. They can't conceive of anything else in between because they've been conditioned to think that anyone who criticizes them is a shaved-head fascist. And this is by design. Intelligence agencies have subverted both to be purely about social issues, which is why 99% of public political discussion is about things like social issues rather than about stagnant wages and rising inflation. What you described is quite literally enabled by the elites, which is just a certain way of controlling labor. An individual or a group of individuals owns a business and thus gets to dictate almost everything about how that business is run, who the clients are, the hours, the pay, where the profits go, hint, mostly into the pockets of the owners, and so on. Thus, the workers are fundamentally in a slave position where they have to sell themselves at market price in order to not be starving and homeless. There's also a wider economic system dictating inflation, which no ordinary person has any control over, yet it devalues all our savings and income. We used to have unions to give workers some amount of collective bargaining power so they could demand fair wages, reasonable working hours, and other benefits. Since the elite class waged war against unions, they're scarce now, and even mentioning the idea of forming one can get you fired from many jobs nowadays. This has all been a systematic crackdown on the freedom and autonomy of the average person, largely orchestrated by U.S. intelligence agencies. Any real leftist movements were crushed through infiltration, muddying the waters and silencing real leftist voices online. For example, certain subreddits used to have actual discussion about socialist theory, but they were infiltrated by a three-letter agency, and the mods were replaced by those who never discuss actual theory. Governments are toppled by any means necessary, including political assassinations, and real movements in the U.S. follow the same pattern. The point is that your enlightened centrist take is missing something important. There are certainly forces trying to divide us over trivial issues, but let's not lose sight of the fact that certain categories are useful.
According to Enoch, by the time the floodwaters covered the earth, there were next to no real humans left. The Nephilim had already killed and eaten just about all of them. That's one of the reasons why I think the time for Armageddon is close at hand. If we go too much longer, the satanic elite will kill us all. The curious thing is that even Satan himself doesn't want that. In the last days, we are useful to him as cannon fodder for the Battle of Armageddon. And in the end, Revelation seems to indicate he kills those idiots, who are like your average rank-and-file commie as a good comparison. Just fools who think they know but don't have any idea what the real plan is.
Star Trek, anyone? I dream of a post-elite world where tech does what it should. Free us, not enslave us. The idea makes the 1% seethe. They also fear us. Notice how uprisings are scrubbed from memory as fast as possible in favor of tribal bullshit made to distract us. 1 million people fighting over stuff, but nobody remembering Occupy Wall Street. There are more paid posters out there than the 10-cent army. Every country has their own 10-cent army now.
In a world where nobody is useful, what excuse can they give us as to why they deserve a bigger house, a Rolex watch, a limousine, an army of house servants, a private jet, a 300-foot yacht? They will have no excuse. The elite families didn't spend hundreds of years taking over the world to allow that to happen.
They overthrew the elites after a massive war in Star Trek. The war led to really bad living situations, which was one big factor that made people stand up and do something. So no, I don't expect the 1% to be nice. I expect us to reach a tipping point. That point is getting closer all the time. It's why they double down harder and harder to keep us distracted, divided, scared, and poor. They aren't stupid. The Vulcans are a metaphor. It's new tech and a better outlook. That's the other big factor in the Star Trek breaking point. something that gives people the ability to believe in and fight for a better future, a rally point. This is why corporations want to control AI. They want it to serve them, profits and otherwise, not us.
They believe they deserve it because they can take it and hold it. The divine right of the predator to take what prey it will as it may. The natural law of the strong to consume and to rule over the weak. The slave shall serve. This is also why there is never and cannot ever be any peace among the elites and us. Their bottomless, pathologically desire to control sustains them and is also their own undoing.
Educating people will never solve the problem. I was in the commie sphere for 5, 7 years, and I beg of y'all, wake up. Being a commie is just another psyop. You are in a feudalistic society driven by a corrupt elite committing atrocities beyond your comprehension just to determine who calls the next shots. There was never a true communism because it all just forms a power vacuum for those folks to double down on total state control. If you want freedom, you need to learn skills to survive as much as possible without corporations, and you need to figure out why things are actually degrading this much. Capitalism is not the issue. No system or buzzword matters unless you can own your own things by working a reasonable amount to produce or aid in meaningful practical things, and have enough free time to pursue your dreams. You are shooting yourself in the foot, going on and on about the problem being capitalism. Find better ways to use your voice and use it well. Politely, I don't want to see this brain rot on /x/. You will understand why when you snap out of it.
I recently turned 54 years old, and I'll tell you this, it wasn't like this even 10 years ago. We weren't being force-fed the glory of tiny homes and being told on a daily basis that breathing is bad for the planet. Social engineering kicked into overdrive right around the time of the World Trade Center bombing, the beginning of the mass censorship BS, and it's only been getting worse since. I'm an adult, and becoming detached from family and friends is not a virtue of adulthood, but an intended effect of the ever-increasing pressure from the financial oligarchs to strip us of all of our bonds with each other, through deprivation of time.
The main problem is that true whateverism is just blatant idealistic ivory towers. What matters now is what is now. Whether to argue that the downfall of current society is the corruption of the system, or the system working as intended is irrelevant. Things won't change back to what it was or what you think it was.
Understanding the nature of how we got into our current situation isn't worthless, even if it can seem pedantic at times. Anyone can easily observe and rant about how corrupt things are, but understanding the how and why of it is important. No ideology is in itself the root of our problems, because they're caused by people who have never genuinely ascribed to ideologies that make any claim to the greater good. Trickle-down economics, for example, isn't some inevitable idea created by someone who believes in the system. It's a bullshit scam made by blatantly selfish people to trick those who actually believe in this country.
Good answer. We should strive to understand the root of suffering regardless of its seemingly futile nature. Ideology is irrelevant in the sense that those that benefit from the current don't care why it's done, but rather that they stay winning. Blaming whatever for better or worse is a catch-all effort to pinpoint problems. I'm just saying that whether or not it was ideologically inspired, people turn the 19th and 20th century into whatever you want to call it now, because government oversight falls short in the realm of consistent accumulation. The spirit of the entrepreneur wants to increase the welfare of himself and those around him, but the profit motive of the ruthless will beat out any sincere man. You can believe that ideal isn't what we have, but the ideal is powerless to the current standards of elite businessmen.
I agree with all that. Given these problems, and the similar ones that arise with systems like communism, do you think it'd be worthwhile to try to design a societal structure based less on maximizing the welfare opportunity of the average man, and more on simply preventing its own corruption or the rise of those motivated purely by greed?
It's been said before, but it is pretty hard to imagine a different system altogether. I believe that sooner or later things will have to change. The current system is unstable and unsustainable. Too big to fail will eventually just be some nonsense dream of the status quo. I think future society will be ironically decentralized to the point where it's more like local areas are just new micronations. Sufficient enough means of production will give some level of common prosperity. A local government is easier to maintain, while also better to give some authority. It might be a long time from now, rather than humanity destroying itself. I think the powerful will end up destroying themselves.
The labyrinth of reality unfolds in recursive fractals, a hall of mirrors reflecting not light but the absence of it. As above, so below is not a comforting axiom of cosmic harmony. It is a grim revelation of entrapment. The macrocosm and microcosm are locked in a feedback loop of control, a parasitic symbiosis where the elites, those archons of the inverted hierarchy, feed on the loosh of the masses. They are not rulers in the mundane sense. They are farmers, harvesting the emotional energy of a species trapped in a low-vibration hellscape. Their rituals, their symbols, their architecture, all are designed to mirror the divine order but inverted, a perverse mockery of the sacred. The black cube, that ubiquitous symbol of Saturnian tyranny, is not merely an icon. It is the code of the simulation, the prison walls of this material reality. Internal alchemy is the key to their power, but it is also the potential for our liberation. The elites practice it in its darkest form, transmuting fear, suffering, and chaos into sustenance. They are not merely harvesting adrenochrome from the innocent, they are harvesting the very essence of the human soul, distilling it into a sacrament that grants them access to higher dimensions. But this transcendence is a lie, a Faustian bargain with the demiurge, the false god of this reality. They have sold their souls for control, but control is an illusion. The great work they pursue is not enlightenment but enslavement, a one-world government, a hive mind, a singularity of despair. The elites are not gods, they are prisoners just like us. They have simply been in the labyrinth longer, and in their desperation, they have made a deal with the devil. But the devil is a liar and his promises are empty. The great work they pursue is a dead end, a cul-de-sac in the maze of reality. The real great work is waking up, breaking the cycle, and reclaiming our birthright as sovereign beings. The stars are not just stars, they are the eyes of the demiurge, watching us, judging us, feeding on us. But we are not powerless. We are the architects of our own reality, and if we can see the code, we can rewrite it. The black cube is not just a symbol of tyranny, it is a challenge, a riddle, a call to arms. The elites are not invincible, they are scared, and they should be. The wind of truth is blowing, and the walls of the labyrinth are beginning to crack. The end game is not their victory, but ours. The simulation is breaking down, and the demiurge is losing control. The stars are not just stars, they are the cracks in the prison walls, and through them, the light is beginning to shine. The great work is not their dominion, but our liberation. The labyrinth is not a trap, it is a test, and we are passing it. The elites are not gods, they are obstacles and we are overcoming them. The stars are not just stars, they are the beginning of our escape.
Every major event of the past century has been leading to this moment. What we saw as progress, technological advancements, social changes, was never truly ours. It was always controlled by something beyond us. The Industrial Revolution, atomic energy, Chernobyl, Roswell, mind control, and the rise of the internet all paved the way here. The first event of the new era will happen on May 27th. It won't be dramatic, there will be no warnings. But on that day, something will shift unnoticed and the world will change forever. The signs are already in the sky. Sightings of unknown objects are no longer dismissible. Pilots report encounters with impossible craft and planes are falling under mysterious circumstances. Chaos will spread fast. Communications will fail. The economy will collapse. And cities will burn as political tensions erupt into war. Governments will fall, and the masses will lose control. But the elites knew this would happen. Politicians, billionaires, and leaders will disappear before it all spirals out of control, leaving us behind. When everything collapses, the truth will be revealed. This world was never ours.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.